Daehoon, just next to can I also invite up Theresa Hoang from, please come up, Theresa, from Women's Crypto Playground. And finally, can I have Pandu Sastrowardoyo?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, as I said, we have, I think, a really very learned and extremely varied panel today to discuss what I think is a critical issue. As Angie identified, a lot of people understand what blockchain is, but perhaps more people don't yet, but are kind of intrigued by its possibilities, intrigued by what it can do, and really are looking for a way to sort of see how it can help them in their lives, in their business, in their industry. And I think what we are trying to answer today is what needs to happen to make blockchain go from this very kind of niche product to something that becomes embedded in our everyday lives. And so what I think I'll do to start with is ask each of our panelists to say a little bit about who they are, what they're working on, and perhaps some of the challenges that they see today. So maybe I can start with you, Pandu.
Okay, ladies first, huh?
Yes, indeed.
All right. Hi, my name is Pandu Sastrowardoyo. You don't really need to remember the last name. You can also call me Panda because it's my spirit animal, and it's similar to my name. Anyway, I'm the Secretary General for the Indonesian Blockchain Association, which is the only association for blockchain companies in Indonesia right now. We have 35 members at the moment, all companies, and some of them are actually nonprofit organizations that have joined us as well. I started really early in the blockchain field, but, well, I'm not that rich. I bought really early, and I bought when Bitcoin was about $11. But the thing is, the reason I'm not rich is because I sold really early as well. I sold when it was 1,000 or 1,400 or something. And the thing behind the discussions back then was all about cryptocurrencies. But it expanded. That discussion expanded really well. And there's a lot of discussions in the space about technologies, and it expanded in Indonesia in a way that is, I can say it's exploding right now, because a lot of the new companies that are coming up are actually creating a lot of technology solutions that are really amazing. Out of the 35 companies, actually around half of them are just dealing with technology. We have consultancies in Indonesia. We have development houses in Indonesia that are just focused on blockchain. And I'm very excited for the future of blockchain. I have actually, the second part of your question is actually challenges. And a lot of people would actually say that the challenges reside in regulatory frameworks and everything else that is related to the government as well. And that's where the association actually comes in. We created the association from 6 of the first blockchain companies in Indonesia, 18 months ago. And the idea was to create dialogues with the government and ensuring that the ecosystem is also supported by regulatory frameworks and legal frameworks that are, first of all, recognized by the government, and also, even though friendly to all of the blockchain companies, but also friendly towards the government as well. So I think from a regulatory perspective, that's the task that the association has. Anyway, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk more. I can probably share more about Indonesia and the blockchain projects in the coming minutes.
Great, thank you very much, Pandu. So Theresa, you come from Women's Crypto Playground. For some reason, I'm finding that a tongue twister. Perhaps you could tell us a little about what you're doing and some of the challenges that you're facing right now.
So, hi everyone. I'm Theresa Hoang from Women's Crypto Playground. I'm the founder and CEO. Women's Crypto Playground is a global playground for neurodivergent people in blockchain, and we're looking to drive adoption and innovation in the blockchain space through immersive events and R&D. I'm looking into blockchain, in applying blockchain tech to business and cryptocurrency as a new asset class. I got into cryptocurrency in 2015 or 2016, and I was really fascinated about the concept of digital currency, but I didn't really have enough information. I didn't know how to get into it. I didn't know anyone else in the space. And then fast forward a few years later, I started getting to the space. I started doing a little bit of trading and starting to look into smaller projects, and was really blown away by the potential of the blockchain technology. And through my journey in growing Women's Crypto Playground, every day I'm meeting more and more people, getting excited about the blockchain tech and applying the technology in really exciting ways. And my goal with Women's Crypto Playground is there's a lot of big companies that are working on the infrastructure and really exciting projects that are looking to gamify the concept to bring it to the mainstream. But I believe that what I would like to focus on is the human psychology part of things, because we can build the infrastructure, we can get people excited, but if we don't change the way people are thinking, if we don't make sure that everyone's voices are being heard and that we're not approaching it with a fresh perspective, we're just going to repeat the mistakes that we've been making already. So what I'm looking to do with Women's Crypto Playground is to shift the mindset and think of it in a different way than it's being currently thought about, and bring a sense of play and excitement. Like, it doesn't have to be so academic. It's supposed to be fun. It's something that when I got into the space, it changed the way that I thought about the world, and not just for me, but in my generation. And so I think that it's worth exploring, and it's worth championing for.
Well, thank you very much, Theresa. I think we all agree, actually, that this is definitely a very fun industry, because it does make you think about how everything that you know works can actually change, and change in a very different way. And I think that's a very neat segue to Bitcoin.com. Stefan Rust, who's a fellow Hong Konger like me, and who I think represents probably the best known brand for this space. So, Stefan.
Thanks. Yeah, I head up corporate and business development for Bitcoin.com, and we're sort of the premier destination for a lot of people coming into Bitcoin. We're sort of supporting a large portion of the Bitcoin Cash community and the Bitcoin Core community. And all of you will have found, so talking about gamification, you will have found a golden ticket on your seats. Someone in there has a $500 golden ticket. It goes from $1 to $500. So somebody could have won $500 if you have the Bitcoin.com wallet app out there. Our wallet is about 5 million people have this non-custodial wallet. So we don't take custody, so we're changing banking. We're not just changing the way you bank and the mediums that you interact with your banks with. We're actually changing the way you bank. The actual banking itself, where we put the banking on the blockchain and you control the keys to your funds. And that's sort of what we do. We're about growing this ecosystem. We see this growing. It's a How many of you own Bitcoin? Bitcoin Cash?
Yeah.
Not many. Come on. China has 70% of the world mining power, and only 2% in the room have Bitcoin. Anyway, interesting to see that. Yeah. But if you will have noticed, the Bitcoin market cap overall, the cryptocurrency market cap, has just broken $330 billion. And I think we heard it earlier, it's a tiny speck in the overall financial markets. And I see the problem not hodling and holding on to crypto as a savings mechanism, but how do we ensure that it gets used as a commerce, as a means to drive and stimulate commercial activity? That is a big challenge that we have, and that's what we want to drive. And that's why I'm so excited to be a part of Bitcoin.com that has this as our vision.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Daehoon, you come from a very different angle. You're from Korea.
Hi.
You run Iritech. Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Daehoon Kim. I'm a CEO of Iritech, US-based iris identification company. Mainly, we are doing some national identification and a lot of security projects using iris. One of the big projects which we are working right now is, for example, U.S. government immigration project, and also India government. There is a huge project of national ID, Aadhaar project. We are doing a major role for the iris identification. And also, United Nations also do the refugee identification and the World Food Program for the enrollment and the registration, authentication, and our technology is used for such application. And recently, about 1 week ago, Philippine government also do the national identification, and we are working with Thales, and we also win such kind of project. Mainly, we are doing some iris identification project until now, but since last year, we apply our technology for the blockchain application, because ID management of the blockchain is one of the very big issue, and our technology can be directly applied for such kind of application. Listen to our development, and we will release right now, from now, is the wallet application. Because current wallet application, big problem is there is still, I think, exchange or such areas. There is some hacking, because private key is in any way, even if stored in a secured way, it is hacked. In this case, we lose all the money. So our technology is private key and iris is mixed together. This is completely different from the encryption. When you make an encryption, we should store the encrypted iris or fingerprint or face information. But however, our case, iris and private key is mixed, and only that is stored. In this case, even somebody take it, they cannot do anything. So for any kind of transaction, we should recover the private key. In that case, only live iris is used for the recovery. So this can be directly applied for the exchange application and the wallet application. Wallet means that hardware wallet, mobile wallet, and web-based wallet applications. In that case, even somebody take some mixture of iris and the private key, there is impossible for the hacking. And another very big advantage is most of the wallet application right now, if they lose the device or broken the device, this is the big problem. So that's why I think most of the wallet, 20 or 30 or 40 special words, seed phrase should be stored in some secret place in case to recover some device, okay? Recover some private key if device is broken or such kind of thing. In our case, there is no need of such kind of thing. This is our very, very strong point about it. And this is also very low cost, maybe very similar like a Ledger or Trezor wallet price. And also, this kind of technology can be directly applied for the mobile device with iris. And India is one of the countries who is doing a lot of such application. And we also recently have finalized some mobile with iris with very, very good accuracy. Because India government make an accuracy test. Before the certification, they make an accuracy test. And our device is the only one who have the 0 errors, more than 5,000 tests. So we are planning to install such kind of wallet application in the areas. So another application is, it's not only for the wallet application. One of the projects which we are doing right now is election. One of my partners in USA, US-based blockchain company, we are preparing a very big project of the election system. In that case, voter registration is done with our iris system, and they make some iris and some special lock code is mixed. That is used for the election, on the election date. In that case, there is no fake voting, no multiple voting is possible. And also, one of our projects which is going on right now with the World Food Program by United Nations also wants to install their whole system in the blockchain system, because if they put how much food is distributed for each person, if the information is on some blockchain, then there is no way for cheating. So such kind of huge project is also going on.
That's great. Thank you very much, Daehoon. I think I think we'll get into the subject of security in a bit more detail actually later on as well. But that's very interesting. Thank you very much. And finally, Peter Lin, the CEO of AAX.
Hi everyone. I'm the founder and the CEO of Adam Group and AAX Digital Asset Exchange. So AAX is the first and so far the only digital asset exchange partnerships with London Stock Exchange Group. And we are working together very closely to bring this institutional grade and ready platforms, not only for institutional clients, but also for retail clients like you and me, myself. So let me give a very quick introduction of London Stock Exchange and the role here. So London Stock Exchange is, besides operating the London Stock Exchange market in London, they are also one of the top 2 technology providers for global financial market, including Hong Kong Stock Exchange and the Singapore exchanges. So really, they are the backbone driving the global financial market. And this is going to be the first digital asset exchange running on top of that. The reasons we are party with the London Stock Exchange is because we, back in early 2018, at the time when we started Adam and AX Digital Asset Exchange, we actually want to create a world-class great platforms, not only for the market demands like today, which is like over 300 billion. We believe the potential is going to be much greater. It's going to be multiple folds or even like 10 folds bigger. So it really needs a global, international grade platforms which can provide good enough performance and capacities to the global audiences. So this is why we party with them together. So here we one of the challenges we are facing is actually from the pools that we can see. So far, the public majority is still having the doubts or even skepticism about this new industry or new asset class. I would say partially because of the negative news is popping up previously. So this is exactly where we are AX going to aim to bring the changes to the industry by bringing the established players from the traditional trusted areas, not only the technology, but also the operation and regulatory mechanisms into these new industries, make it transparent, trust, and integrity, so everyone can start to accept these new industries. So this is the biggest challenges, and also we feel this is the great opportunities.
Thank you very much, Peter. So I think that's quite interesting. We've got, as I say, a wide group of panelists, and clearly, I think the poll that Stefan did just informally there shows that there's clearly some challenges with adopting even digital assets. I mean, 2% of the room kind of owned perhaps a digital asset or a Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency, and so even the adoption of that coin is still a little bit tentative, despite the fact that we are actually in a country where there is a large ownership of cryptocurrencies. In this room, it's clear there's still some questions about whether they should be owning or not. And then to the technology itself. I think adoption of the technology is still, people are still quite tentative. And one of the questions that I think is even taking place in this conference is, can the mobile industry adopt blockchain? So maybe I turn to Pandu first with a specific question, because you work with the Indonesian government, and they clearly, like most governments around the world, are looking at the potential for blockchain and what it can achieve. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with them and what the reception is for blockchain in Indonesia?
Right. I think there are 2 parts to your question, right? First of all is the telcos, and the other is the government. Sure. Indonesia itself has seen a lot of telcos actually come into this space. Like one of the largest, actually it is the largest telecommunications company in Indonesia, Telkomsel, actually has a blockchain as a service offering that is related to their cloud. And you basically can, it's a B2B service, so it's not a B2C service basically. So they sell to companies. And if you want to implement a blockchain solution of your own, you can actually go to them. One, and a lot of the other telcos are actually using it to sell their connectivity. So it's more towards not the on-device part, but actually not actually more towards selling connectivity along with basically selling a blockchain solution that is more B2B than B2C. That's one part of it. The government itself actually is very, very excited. There's a ton of stuff that is actually happening in Indonesia regarding telecommunications. And Indonesia, if you guys don't know, has 17,000 islands. When basically connecting all these islands can be very difficult, as you can imagine. And they have been starting to, I think within 1 or 2 years, full connectivity of all of these 17,000 islands. And the idea is there are some parts where blockchain technology can help, particularly in the trust part, like land registration, for example, is actually a nightmare in Indonesia, as you can imagine, with the number of islands. And and everything is still very, very centralized. Education certificates also for Indonesians, especially for a national organization like for example, the Bank of Indonesia itself has certificates for banks that are for banking employees that each banking employees from all of these provinces need to come to Jakarta to actually get certified face-to-face, and there are some talks of actually creating a blockchain for that, basically making sure that the documents can't be tampered with, instead of having everyone come in a centralized manner. And that is actually why the ecosystem has been expanding so much, because Indonesia has a lot of regional autonomy. We have, the aforementioned, again, 17,000 islands, 33 provinces, and because of the regional autonomy, creating a sort of, Indonesia might become a decentralized nation, and that's what I'm proud of in Indonesia, and that's why I wanted to share here.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. And Theresa, your introduction was actually very interesting, because you're actually, apart from operating in the operational space, you're actually also operating a little bit in the mental and spiritual space, right? And trying to change people's views and the way they think about this. And I think that's really critical, because, I think most of us have grown up in a centralized world, used to centralized authorities, and getting your head around a completely decentralized world is very alien to the way most of us have been educated and brought up. So can you perhaps tell us a little bit about how you think we can move from this industry from being, as I say, a bit of a niche industry to the mainstream by changing people's mindsets?
Yeah. So what I hope to do with Women's Crypto Playground is ultimately to empower people. When I say that I'm looking to celebrate diversity of the mind, I think it's important to have many different perspectives in the space, and that's what's going to drive innovation. But ultimately, we need people that are empowered and that are thinking critically and doing their own research, because in the crypto space, there's a lot of information, as we all know, and it can be hard to keep up with everything that's going on. And so we need people who are able to make their own decisions, because there's so many possibilities, and essentially it's combining a lot of different elements together. And so in order to do that, we need people to be able to trust themselves. And in order to trust them, and that's where the spirituality part comes into it, to be able to filter through the noise and doing your own research and educating yourself and empowering yourself that way. So I think that's the direction that I want to go in, is to empower people, because the media is going to say a lot of different things, and people are going to be continually bombarded with the news, and so we need people who are able to see through that and see the potential, and that's how I believe that we're going to be able to bring it to the mainstream.
Well, it's very worthy. It's very worthy work. As someone who, like Angie, has kind of grown up in the media, I think we kind of know where the media come from and when they report on these things.
And that's not to put down the media at all.
Absolutely, yeah.
We need the media to be able to spread the message.
Yeah.
And they're doing their job, but people also need to do their jobs for themselves.
Yes.
They can't just rely on other people to do the research for them and then just absorb the information, because that's not really going to get us anywhere.
So speaking of the media, I think it's a very nice way of coming to my next question. We actually have a question that's come in from the audience. I appreciate you sending in questions. I think the one subject we haven't yet mentioned, but we cannot not mention, is the big news of the last 7 to 10 days, which has been the launch of the Libra project, right? Which is, for those who perhaps have not known, don't know yet, is Facebook's attempt, I would say, likely to become reality, but Facebook's way into the blockchain world and into the digital asset crypto world. They are launching a coin which they say will be a means of payment for their user base, which, as we know, is 2.3 billion and growing. Right? So maybe I'll ask the business development director of Bitcoin.com, because clearly Bitcoin was the first digital currency. Can you tell us what your view is of Libra, and also whether you think it'll succeed? And I'm also going to ask Peter as well, because Peter also comes from the crypto digital asset world. I think has probably got a strong view on this. But Stefan first.
Look, I mean, I think last week we saw two great events happen. First is Bitcoin broke the 10,000 mark, and most of you, if you're not in Bitcoin, don't realize we went through 24 months of sheer hell. I mean, it was a brutal 24 months, and I think nobody realizes how difficult it was to hold on and survive in the cryptocurrency space. We went from 20,000 all the way down to 3,000, and then we just broke through 10,000. That's sort of how we hold on to our seat, and we fasten our seatbelts really tight in this ride, and we try to get lean. And it's like a Hunt harmonica. So that's been one big set of news. And the other set of news that might have helped drive this beyond the boundary is the potential legitimization of digital currencies. And I think Facebook's initiative around trying to bring a Libra currency to the market is an attempt to legitimize this. It's great for the industry. I mean, I can only appeal to it. I think it's going to increase the awareness. I think, to Theresa's point earlier, people need to do their research. They need to learn about this industry. They need to understand how crypto works, who the right people are, who are honest people, who are scammers. And there are luckily a lot of different channels out there where you can learn about this. You've got YouTube, you've got websites, you've got Medium, you've got all these different opinion blogs out there where people write up about this. And to be honest, Libra is less, it's another stable coin. I mean, it's nothing else. It's just big boys coming together trying to issue another stable coin. And we've had a number of stable coins in the market, and we're going to see many more come out. I think the digital currency in China particularly, all of you have WeChat, right? Nobody. Okay. Very active audience here. So come on, how many have WeChat? How many use WeChat Pay every single day? So do you think Facebook is not trying to come up with an alternative because they see the threat of WeChat coming after the global markets with enabling WeChat Pay outside of China? So is that a custodial wallet which they're trying to launch? We feel is just another means of creating a different bank, except the bank isn't called ICBC or HSBC or Citibank. It's actually called Facebook Bank, called Calibra. And they've just branded it under a different name. That's sort of, it's a custodial wallet, kid you not, and Facebook can shut off your funds if a government goes to them and say, please close down Stefan's account or Sheel's account because we don't know where he actually got and paid for those shoelaces.
Okay.
Where he got the money to buy those shoelaces.
They were from legitimate means, don't worry. So thank you very much, Stefan. I mean, and Peter too, give us your view on Libra, and also do you think that actually it could be a tipping point to greater adoption of digital assets? And
so the question is like, will Libra succeed? Honestly speaking, I don't know because I cannot predict the future. But I would say in the future, when we look back at this like incident, I would say Libra and the Facebook launching of Libra, it will be a historical event in the blockchain history, because this is like the first time big corporations and big institutions get involved actively to participate in these new areas. And actually, it's not that Facebook is also, there's about 100 like big institutions, including Master, Visa, and PayPal, and the VCs backing these projects. So if we look at the histories, so before 2017, the public opinion, especially the big institutions, they are very negative or skeptical about these industries. So this is where you see a lot of like bad news and a lot of criticisms to the blockchain areas. In 2018, we start to see their attitude start to switch. So we see the Fidelity as a public announced that they are going to offer the crypto asset to their investors, and we see the Iritech, which is an exchange invested by Nasdaq, and then also New York Stock Exchange. Their parent company ICE also started an exchange called BAC. And this is also we start to collaborating with the London Stock Exchange, because like although in 2018 there's like we experienced a downturn of the Bitcoin and the market, but those institutions they think, hey, when the market cools down and everyone start to be rational, this is really a good timing for them to get involvement. So we actually predict the 2019 is going to be a very interesting year, is because we expect like this is the year the institutions is going to embrace the blockchain and digital currency. And we are actually, honestly speaking, we are not surprised to see Facebook made the announcement of the Libra projects, and definitely they are not going to be the last big names going to participate.
So how do you feel, can I just ask a question, how do you feel about the institutions coming into the cryptocurrency? These are the same institutions, the ones that you just mentioned, are the same institutions that brought us the 2008 crisis, that had forced the population and the tax dollars to bail them out. How do you see that changing at all, if at all?
I would say, like, first of all, there are a lot of different institutions, and they have like shared different opinions. But what they really, I would say, interested to find out and also cares about is the mechanisms and the code of conduct within these industries. So they want to. There's definitely there's like business opportunities that they want to chase after, but also at the same time they want to make sure it's an industry with integrity, also compliance and regulated, so they can participate. Because behind them, they also have their shareholders, their board to report to. They want to make sure they wouldn't get into any trouble.
I think we can probably agree that since 2008, the world has changed, right? Because clearly there is less trust around, and that's what has spurred, rather, I should say, blockchain. And so, in many ways, even companies like Facebook and the Calibra network, one might expect are going to be a lot more on their guard to behave ethically and ensure that the necessary protections are in place, because clearly they're not fully decentralized, but they have to, because politicians have mandated regulators, and the politicians have been voted in by the people to keep a much more watchful eye on these things. Whether you trust them or not is a different question, but clearly I think we're in a different world than we were pre-2008. But you raise a very good point, Stefan, because not only is there sort of a question about, how ethical it is for large organizations like Facebook to enter into the blockchain space and the cryptocurrency space, but clearly there's also an issue around security, which I wanted to ask Daehoon about, and we've got a question that's come up, which is that, when you're talking about one Bitcoin being worth, I think it's over 12,000 today, right?
Well,
And all you need is 7 or 8 of those to actually becoming quite a sizable balance. You know, these balances then come under risk, and security becomes a very, very big question. And Daehoon represents Iritech, which is using, as he explained, an iris technology. But the question that's come up is that, you know, can blockchain security as we know it today hold up to what quantum computing is also offering? And can quantum computing actually overcome encryption capabilities, even encryption capabilities that come from an iris? I mean, to what extent is the security solutions that we're seeing potentially being overcome by other technologies such as quantum computing?
Okay, so normally until now, nobody stored some important information just a simple way, okay? Most common way is encryption. If we make encryption of the private key with the iris or fingerprint or face or any kind of information, anyway, we should store that information for decryption, okay? So if somebody take the encrypted that information and both of them, then they can hacking. This is very important, very serious issue at this time. But our important thing is, that's why I think I don't say that this is the encryption. This is the mixture of iris and the private key together. And when we generate the mixture of iris and private key, of course we should take the iris image, and we don't store the information, only mixture. And maybe I think I want to inform you, some of them is not familiar about it. Every biometric information, even the face, iris, fingerprint, even the same person, every time the iris code, fingerprint code, face code is different, even the same person. This is very, very important thing. So that's why I think we should store the encrypted iris or fingerprint or face. But our case is we don't store that information, okay, on mixture. So that's why I think even somebody take the mixture, they cannot do anything. Right. To generate the private key, I should take another live iris again, okay? And we generate and make a transaction, and we don't store any information. So in that case, there are two very important factors. Technology should be done. First is fake biometric is very important. If somebody can generate the private mixture from the fake information, fake iris or fake fingerprint or fake face, this is very, very serious. Okay? So because the fingerprint, a lot of fingerprint, latent fingerprint, face very easy to take the photo. Okay? Iris is also maybe more difficult, but anyway, fake is done. So fake biometric information detection is very, very important. Okay, and there is, I think, a serious issue at this time. And in that case, one of the very big advantages is even I lose the device, sometimes broken the device, it's very, very, I think, easy. Okay, we recover. We have no need to store some seed phrase or such kind of thing. So this one can be also directly applied for the IoT application, because IoT application several years ago, a lot of persons think that IoT may be applied in the many, many areas. But recently, one of the reasons why IoT is not very widely spread is, I think, security, in my opinion. If somebody makes a hacking of the password for the IoT control, then it is very dangerous. Mm-hmm. So in that case, if IoT chip also includes this kind of mixture of some command and iris information, okay, in that case, it's very, very difficult, almost impossible for the hacking. So this is the key point about it. And eventually, this kind of technology can be directly applied for the mobile device, eventually, as you say that.
Well, thank you very much. So you heard him say it's almost impossible to hack, right? So that's a challenge if I ever heard one. But Pandu, you've got a perspective on this, I know. Okay,
so my background is actually a technology consultant. I used to work for IBM. And as you know, the main issue here is the quantum cryptanalysis aspect, basically, and how basic quantum computing can be used to cryptanalyze the current algorithms that are in play. And to be honest, some of those algorithms, actually most of those algorithms, are not quantum proof. These are underlying issues that need to be solved. And the thing about solving it, I'm very positive that we as a community, as an ecosystem, would be able to solve it, simply because, first of all, the leading quantum computer, I think, right now is only 5 qubits, quantum bits, so only 5 qubits. And everyone is saying that to reach 1,000 qubits, you would need 5 years, and to reach 1 million qubits, you would need 10 years. So we still have time to actually fix everything. And secondly, there are a lot of technologies that are being researched by your government as well. China has invested $10 billion and well, actually in both quantum computing and quantum cryptanalysis, basically because it's a differentiating factor in today's world to actually have those. But there are a lot of things that are in play. And this involves a lot of scary things, including changing the actual algorithm. Because right now, why a lot of algorithms are not quantum proof is because they're based on things that are not quantum proof, such as factorization, which is not quantum proof. The new technologies, the new algorithms, the new math that is coming out is actually very exciting. The lattice-based one is exciting, and there are many, many things that are still being done. I think the thing here is, going back to the iris technology, the biometric technology, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Now, if we strengthen the chain in every part of the link, and does the iris technology solve the quantum cryptanalysis problem? No, but it solves another link in the chain that is actually the link that is usually most weak, the one that has to do with users. Actually, you guys are doing great in actually helping out that, but there still needs to be work in the community in helping the entire.
I just want to add on one point that Pandu mentioned, is that it doesn't only apply to blockchain technology.
Oh yeah, that's actually true. Yeah.
This applies to every single technology. So if you're in the banking business, if you're in the credit card business, quantum computing is a threat to you as well.
Right. Your KYCs are actually encoded within the, well, it's an asymmetric cryptography, basically, and that's the issue. Symmetric cryptography, not so much, but asymmetric cryptography are very quantum prone, and that's something that everyone needs to look at, not just the blockchain people here.
Very interesting. So maybe the quantum computing industry needs to be regulated too.
Yeah.
We should go to the G20 summit.
That's right. Yes, that's true. I know they're so worried about cryptocurrencies, but they should worry about quantum computing. So, Peter, perhaps you could give us your perspectives, given your background as a technologist and now as someone who's running a digital asset exchange. You know, what do you think is necessary, important to happen to make cryptocurrencies and digital assets more widely embraced?
Yeah, this is actually a very good question. So this is like a mobile world, like a congress, and if you look at the mobile phones, this is like perfect examples that I believe the blockchain industry should learn from. So mobile phones really becomes popular when only when the technology or the products becomes, I would say, user convenient, user friendly, and also accessible that you can use everywhere, and also last but not least, affordable. So this is really the key factors to drive the majority adoptions of the mobile technologies, and this is where the whole industry should learn from. So we believe for the crypto or like a blockchain industry to continue to grow and develop from a niche sector to a widely accepted product services, we also need, I'm expecting to see a killer app, maybe built on top of the blockchain fundamental infrastructures, which provide the same kind of user-friendliness and also for convenience and accessibility to normal people. So people wouldn't like have a second thought about like whether to choose crypto or like a non-crypto. It's like you take off. It's like nowadays if you need a car, you take a phone to use Uber or Didi to call a cab. It's natural. So once we see such like a mature applications to emerge, then probably that will be the blockchain or the crypto become mainstream.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. We had another question that's come in, and if there are questions from the audience, then just please raise your hand as well. Perhaps there's a question that I can ask Theresa to think about, is that, because it goes to this issue of trust and psychology, but a gentleman called Stephen Yip asked the question, currently there are lots of fraud in the health industry, and can blockchain technology help to elevate this trust issue and eliminate problems around this area? So could you tell us about how blockchain can perhaps tackle trust and those kinds of issues?
Well, essentially, blockchain technology is a decentralized ledger. And the thing is tech is always going to be around, but tech is just a tool. In terms of solving the issues of fraud, that's an issue of human nature, and that's not something that I feel like that's completely separate from blockchain tech. Right. And that kind of goes along with people taking ownership and accountability of their own actions, and bad actors being held accountable for their bad actions. But that's completely separate, in my opinion, from the technology itself. So can blockchain solve the issues of fraud? Yes, because of transparency. But I don't think the tech itself is going to stop people from
being fraudulent.
Yes.
I mean, it's
from
also
trying to get away with things.
Right.
What kind of fraud, right? I mean, there's so many different types of fraud. Is it claims fraud? Is it, oh, I hurt myself, I broke my ankle? Is that fraud? I mean, is that a health insurance fraud? Is that a technology solution? Is that?
I guess the question is, if there is information on the blockchain, then that can't be tampered with, right? So if someone claims that they have a condition and it's not recorded on the blockchain, then you can question that.
Yeah.
But you would still need, in terms of fraud, someone would still need to come and check and follow up with each individual case. The technology itself is just the data part.
So it's not a panacea, indeed. Yeah.
But I think the beauty is, on the blockchain, everybody thinks it's like hugely intransparent. It's actually totally an open ledger. Anybody can see all the transactions moving forward. You just don't know necessarily who it's coming from and where it's going to. And I think that's the only thing that's encrypted, really. And that's in the control of the user.
Yeah.
And I also think that that can help with the fraud in terms of it is open to everyone. So everyone is held accountable. And so by being open and everyone seeing what's going on, that will bring another element that doesn't currently exist.
Pandu?
Yeah, so we actually have several cases that are like this, and it's all has to do with anti-fraud, whether in banking, health industry, and others. And it's all, it's not just a blockchain solution. And blockchain is not a panacea. It's a part of other solutions as well, KYC solutions, identity solutions, biometric solutions, obviously. But the key here is having multiple organizations share data about their users, but without really sharing the data from the beginning. So there are multiple solutions that are available. In Indonesia, there's a startup called One Me Identity that is actually doing this as well. So the idea is making sure, and the Hyperledger Indie people are actually doing a lot of this. The sovereign identity. So the data is owned by the user. So if I go to one hospital and I go to another hospital, then I bring my data with me. And the data is ported into the other hospital, but the hospital does not have control over the data that they don't have the patients for. Like if I'm a patient, I walk in the door, they see my data. But if I don't walk in the door, they don't see their own data, even though the data resides there. So it's more of the pseudonymous nature of the blockchain that is used in this case. And one other thing is that the government would be able to still see as a whole, as an ecosystem, the entire health data. If they need like the global World health data, like flu vaccines, for example. They can still see that, and it's all anonymized to them. So it doesn't break any privacy laws, even though these are private companies. And yeah, the sharing of the data actually helps a lot with the fraud, because when you are able to share data, and you imagine this not being a hospital, but with insurance and with banks, then you'll see that if someone is trying to overfinance himself and try to borrow from multiple banks, you would be able to see it outright when that actually happens. So yeah, just my 2 cents.
Very, very interesting.
My two satoshis.
I mean, I think people believe that one of the great benefits of blockchain is clearly that data can be anonymized, right? So even, Stefan, you mentioned how, you can use, on the blockchain, you can transfer value and payments across, and you can see exactly where that money has been, and you can see through every single channel, but you don't know necessarily where it's come from or necessarily where it's going to. But one question, and again, this is, you mentioned the G20, and I'd put this perhaps to Peter, is that we know that FATCA, which is the Financial Action Task Force, are going to urge the G20 to make it regulation that, at least for exchanges, there needs to be information assigned, that you need to know who is sending money to whom and who you're exchanging information for. And I'm wondering, how do exchanges feel about that? Because that's quite different to what was initially intended under the ideal of blockchain.
Yeah, actually, this is also relates to one of the questions asked about the KYC and AML. So, because like blockchain, actually, even today, people associate like blockchain or cryptocurrency as like a convenient vehicles for laundering dirty monies.
Yeah.
So the technology itself is actually neutral. It's like Atom technologies, right? So it really depends how those technologies being used and what kind of like regulatory or compliant like freedoms the regulators could provide to innovate and neutral this new development. So this is come back to the questions. Yes, definitely, like we are concerned because the exchange we feel like for us AX, we want to, whatever we do, engage the activity that we engage, we want to make sure that we are compliant and regulated. Also, at the same time, we embrace the regulations and the compliance because we believe it's only by making the whole industry more integrity and transparent and fair. So that's this is the preliminary conditions that the mass majority market will start to accepting this new stuff, new things. So I think this is also the intentions of the regulators globally. They are carefully like a balance between the providing giving enough like freedoms, so for the new innovators, new startup to explore and being innovative, but also at the same time like also having enough control or mechanisms to make sure that this like powerful tools cannot be abused.
I know, Stefan, you got a view on this.
The regulators are scared. Let's face it. I mean, they don't know what to do. They don't understand cryptocurrencies. And so they're just putting up bans that they know. And so as a result, at the same time, they see the innovation, the job creation that's coming from this forward-leading, emerging new technology that has the potential to be what the internet was to the whole industry, what telco was. I mean, I'm old. I mean, I'm so lucky to have gone through the internet days, CompuServe. Anybody here remember CompuServe? I was one of their first. Yeah, there you go. We're the same age. Yo, high five. But that's a really early days. I went through the mobile revolution. We went through the VoIP revolution. Remember voice over IP? You go back 5 years when Mark Zuckerberg announced that he was going to acquire WhatsApp in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress again. Nobody believed in VoIP. Nobody believed that VoIP was going to take over. And now we're seeing this money over IP. Look at this innovation that this is going to bring to an economy that is already saturated with internet. We all have internet connectivity. We all have mobile devices. We're at a mobile conference. So how is you, as a regulator, why do you want to stop this innovation from growing? And I think we need to, as educate our regulators, and that's why we have association members, right. We have playground members that are really trying to educate from the ground up how to embrace this technology versus taking an institutional stand. We must protect the Goldman Sachses and the Citibanks of the world because they are the institutions that I can call up when I have a problem to print new money when I want to because I have to pay my debt, right? So we have to be able, as a user, take control of our own destiny versus relying always on custodial entities to manage that for us. And if you look historically, to even today, actually, in the crypto world, the exchanges are the biggest wallet owners. Yeah. So even us as crypto fanatics, we trust exchanges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's no different than going, I'm just trusting Coinbase or Atom. In the future, I'll be trusting Atom when you launch versus actually trusting my own wallet, which is just, and I'm not going to HSBC or ICBC, I'm going to AXX, right?
I think like scared is a right word to expression the emotions like of the regulators. Actually, I would say everyone is scared because this is such a new thing. The whole industry is like 10 years old, and no one could claim like a veteran for this new industries. Everyone, including the participants, startups, and the regulators, is still like learning. And this is like nature, human nature, when people see a new emergence of new technologies. For example, if you see on the YouTube the videos for the AI technologies, those like robots made by Boston Dynamics. It's really, when I first time, I still remember my emotions when I see those like robots like can jump like human beings. I'm scared. I really like, is this the end of the human species? But like this is like the very powerful tools. Technology is a very powerful tool. So that's why like actually I'm very happy to see the community based like education and also discussions happening, because everyone is essentially in the end like learning and exploring and trying to mitigate the downside of these powerful tools, but also having the positive side like unleashed.
So you combine there are pessimists, there are optimists. And I think, as entrepreneurs, we tend to be more on the optimistic side. And as the establishment, we tend to be a bit more on the pessimistic side. And I think there are pictures that you could paint of Terminator meets The Matrix meets Ready Player One. And then that's the world that we could be working towards.
Yeah.
And is that a world we want to work towards? And I think as optimists, we tend to err on the side of, we're not going to let that happen. The sun still shines, and we will figure out how to solve the world.
Yeah, definitely. Like as a startup, we are optimistic. So we believe we don't know exactly how tomorrow is going to be different from what it is today, but we do believe like tomorrow is going to be different.
Yep.
And also entrepreneurs are like dreamers. Also, entrepreneurs are also like practitioners.
Yeah.
So they are carefully evaluating balance between like what they want to do as a vision, but also what can be done today. So it takes step-by-step approaches to bring the changes to really to reach the vision, the broader visions.
Pandu?
Just to that point, and this is on my opinion, blockchain is sort of different from AI and big data and all the other technologies in that, if you look at AI, big data, most of them were funded by either universities or big companies, people knocking doors on universities to get funding on AI, and for big data, there's Hadoop and Google coming into the space. Blockchain is a lot different. We're based on a community of people who are actively doing crypto, and then we fund the technology.
Yep.
It's a self-funding community, basically, and it has been for like 8 years, and then the people came in, the mainstreamers actually became part of us as well. But the thing is that has caused a lot of technological maturity because we are self-sufficient and we created a lot of these technologies ourselves. But it also has created a bit of, jealousy about like we did it first, this is ours, like we're not going to share, which actually goes against the grain of a lot of the corporations. I think there's a balance that needs to be found, and I think we will find that balance. Like we're on the stage of Mobile World Congress, so at least there's actually going to be a bridge discussion, and it's not a bridge too far, it's going to be a bridge that's actually going to be beneficial for both of the mainstream or blockchain ecosystems, in my opinion.
I agree. Being on the stage of Mobile World Congress is a huge step forward for the blockchain industry. There's no right. question about that. So delighted to be here. And Theresa, I mean, again, I'm always fascinated by the psychology sides of things. And we've talked about fear. We've seen a lot of excitement. These are real human emotions because so much of what we're doing is unknown, right? I mean, Stefan said it. The regulators are scared, right? Because, right. And as Peter said, because humans tend to be scared of something they don't understand, right? So, I mean, can you just give us your perspective on how you're trying to make people less scared and more open and willing to embrace this?
I think there's no arguing that technology is there. And big companies like Facebook are already using the technology to their advantage. And if, as individuals and small businesses, that we're not getting on board, we're going to be left behind. And so what I'm trying to do is educate people and promote awareness through immersive events. And what I hope to do is combine innovative technologies to create these immersive events around the concept of blockchain, to bring the real world and combine it with the possibilities. So for example, a lot of what has to do with cryptocurrency is game theory. So I hope to, create events like, poker games or like just in-person events that people can play with the concept of technology so that they can bridge the gap, so that is to take it just from concept to be able to bring it into the real world. And through immersive events, they'll be able to see the technology in a different way and be able to play with it directly rather than just kind of talk about the concept.
Thank you very much, Theresa. Look, we've got 50 seconds left, so let me just sum up. I think if you want to come away with a conclusion, the conclusion has got to be we're very, very close. I think Daehoon talked about how he is now working with several governments that are using encryption, blockchain-based technology to really empower their own systems, their own electoral systems. We're hearing how Indonesia intends to become absolutely fully connected across 375?
No, 17,000 islands.
70,000 islands, which is
insane, which is
absolutely amazing. Stefan from Bitcoin.com has been really fighting the good fight since the very beginning to kind of make this real, and I think just his sheer enthusiasm alone will push this into the mainstream. Peter is trying to create an exchange which is robust and institutional grade, but is available for everyone to use. So you should download his app, and clearly, Theresa is actually trying to change everyone's mindset. So I think we end this with a great sense of optimism. As Stefan says, I guess we're all entrepreneurs, and the sun's always shining. So I just want to say thank you very, very much to my panelists today for a very intriguing and thoughtful discussion. And thank you very much to all of you for listening and taking part. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.